Alright, we're recording. Test, test, test. Mic test, everything.
No, wait!
Yeah. Well. Oh no, it froze, of course. Hello everyone, welcome back to Joe's Corner, the first interview of the year, actually. Well, happy 2025. But we are joined by one of the best radio hosts in all of the UK, aka the #1 Japanese and anime related, I guess that would be the best way to describe it. Radio host, one of the top Hololive TCG creators all on the platform known as YouTube, as well as one of the top voice content creators, Weiss and Chill. Hello, sir.
Hello, my friend, my Joe.
Happy New Year, by the way. Happy 2025.
Yes, Happy New Year. Yes, it's 2024 was a year, and 2025 will also be a year.
Yeah, you got that right. Also, congratulations on welcoming the year with 1.5, by the way.
Yeah, that kind of happened out of nowhere. I was like, oh, it'll be really cool if like we got to like 750. I think that was about August time. I was like, oh, if I can get to like 750, I'll be happy. That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started doing Hololive content, and the channel blew up. And I was like, oh, okay. Now 1,000's on the table. Oh, now 1,200. Now 1,500. Oh my god, can we hit 1,500?
And you did it right as the clock struck 12. It's almost like a miracle.
Literally, like I think it was just after midnight for me. About 4 or 5 hours afterwards, but if you take that in consideration on your time, it literally is midnight. So yep. I take it.
Look, it's midnight somewhere, like it's 5 o'clock somewhere. You gotta extend it and stretch it a little bit. But for those who don't know who you are, please go on a rant, talk about yourself, explain who you are, what you do.
Yeah, so yeah, my name's Liam. I am the content creator behind Weiss and Chill. We're a card game focused channel on YouTube and Twitch. Started off doing Vice Schwartz content where I was a former Wales finalist back in 2019. I'm a level 2 judge for Vice Schwartz as well, and have been for about 3 years now. And I started creating content at the beginning of COVID, about a year into COVID. I think my first video was done January 2022. So it's literally 3 years this month. And I'm just a massive weeb. And I also do a radio show called Nipponji on a show called Colville Public Radio, where you can listen online. And that show's on Thursday nights in the UK time. And that's kind of everything about me, I guess.
So we're going to go through a list of stuff I have prepared question-wise. We've known each other for what? I won't say since base started, but like... Yeah. Actually started interacting maybe like a year or two ago, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
So I know the answers to like a good chunk of these questions. Had to look for a second, but for those who are coming across it, I think this is a good way to learn about the UK's #1 radio host when it comes to all things Japan related and anime related. So I want to start off with how you got into anime, because obviously it's a big factor into you playing Weiss Schwartz, you starting up this radio host show, and all this other thing. So, how did you come across anime? Like, what?
Yeah.
What started it?
Yeah, I mean, when I was young, obviously, you know, I watched the likes of Pokemon, I watched the likes of Yu-Gi-Oh, Beyblade, Digimon, Dragon Ball Z, not really knowing it was anime. Mm-hmm. And I just thought it was a cartoon that I enjoyed. It was, you know, it was popular enough in the West, and I enjoyed those things. And then I got to the age of about 14, and my mum and dad were like, "Oh yeah, we know you like your cartoons," and and they got me a few DVDs and stuff. So I think it was the first time I ever watched Cowboy Bebop. Again, not really knowing it was anime. I was like, "Oh, this is a cool show. I'm just going to enjoy watching this." And then I got to university, so I was 18 years old. And a dorm friend of mine was like, "Oh, you should check out this anime." I'm like, "Anime? What's anime?" I was like, "Oh, it's like Pokemon." I was like, "Wait, Pokemon's anime?" Like I heard of it, like I never like linked the two together. Mm-hmm. And after I did, I was like, "Oh, like here's an anime you should watch." And he recommended to me Sword Art Online. And I watched. So at the time, it was only season 1 that was out. Both arcs of season 1. And I watched through all of that. I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. What can I watch next? And then he recommended Attack on Titan. got into Attack on Titan, and then I fell down a rabbit hole. I moved on to things more like Love Live, Bang Dream. I'm trying to think what other stuff I started really early. One of the very first animes I watched, which is still one of my favorite to this day, is Death Parade. Fantastic 12 episode short anime series, and it wraps up so well. I digress. And then it just sort of developed from there, and I think I've now probably watched at least 250 different anime at least. And literally I watch anime literally every day, at least a episode or two every night. And like you said, it's a big part of my life now, from just enjoying Japan in general, and obviously anime being my gateway into Japan culture. So, and again, obviously with what I do with the content stuff and things like that, obviously I have to be very aware of anime, but I don't do it because I have to. I do it because I want to, which is really cool. But yeah, I guess that's how it started for me, and I think that's how it starts for a lot of people in anime. Starting with the cartoons that were dubbed in the West very early, back in 99 2000s, and then developing into an actual anime fan. You know what I mean?
So I find it interesting that you came across it in college, because a lot of people, and myself included, it's either middle school or high school when because a lot of people, Beyblade, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Sailor Moon, all this stuff you see on TV, but you don't know it. And like in my case, I would wake up early and I would see Inuyasha, Cowboy Bebop, because there's Toonami over here, and they would go till 6 a.m. and then 6 a.m. would turn into normal TV. So like late night was up until 5:30, 6 o'clock. And I would always end up catching an episode of Inuyasha or an episode of Cowboy Bebop or something like that. But I didn't know until high school, like my senior year, around that time, what anime was. And that's when... So I find it interesting. Was it your freshman year, or was it your first year, second year?
Yeah, literally, first year, freshman year. Literally, I was a young electronic engineering student in the East Midlands, and literally a friend of mine who was on, it was a different course, but we literally lived like 2 or 3 doors down in the same dormitory. He just said, "Oh, I know you like your Pokemon. I know you're a bit of a nerd. You play the Pokemon card game. Why don't you check out other anime?" I'm like, okay, why not? I've got the time. I'm a university student. I've got time. And yeah, that's where it's just sort of snowballed from.
Okay. So with all this in mind, and you keeping up because of Why Schwartz and all this other stuff, what are your, let's do your top 5, and what would, out of these 5, what would you recommend first?
Okay.
I know this is a hard question.
This is it's good. Given how many I've watched, what would I class as my top 5? So my top, I definitely know my top 2. My top 2 are, as I said, Death Parade, and also the Danganronpa anime series. For those that know, I am a sucker for psychological, like play or die style anime and manga. I've literally, at the moment, I'm reading a manga called Liar's Game, which is really good. And I've seen the likes of, Tomodachi Game. Obviously, in terms of like K-drama, of course, Squid Game, Alice in Borderlands, all that sort of thing. I love that style of story. And both Death Parade and Danganronpa have a very high aspect of that, with an underwriting story as well. So those are my favorite 2, but I would never recommend anyone to start with those, because they are complex, I think is the best way of putting it. In terms of like my other favorite anime that I think are a lot more beginner friendly, I guess is the way of putting it. Yuru Camp. I love Yuru Camp. It's so cozy. It's a fantastic slice of life anime. All about girls literally going camping and just enjoying the Japanese like nature side of wilds, and the rural part of it all, and being outside Mount Fuji and stuff like that. It's absolutely phenomenal, as well as actually being quite educational for those that wanted to get into camping. So yeah, Yuru Camp's up there for me as well. In terms of, I think my favorite that's in the top 5 that is probably a mainstream anime is probably got to be One Piece. You know, I absolutely love One Piece. I'm up to date on it, and you know, I think it's one of those things where it shows you that yes, something can go on for an incredibly long time. Like One Piece are hitting 1,100 episodes now,
going on 20 plus years.
Exactly, like One Piece is an incredibly long-standing anime, but I think One Piece is actually an incredibly good beginner anime, provided you start yourself from the beginning. And the fact that obviously One Piece has now got the live action, which in my opinion is actually really well done. They're doing the remake of the first 3 or 4 arcs, but in a much shorter time frame.
Yeah, I call it Kai, because that's exactly what DBZ was. DBZ Kai
exactly
is that.
Exactly, yeah. So One Piece are doing that. So also when that comes out, that'll be so much easier for new people to get into the world of One Piece. Again, from a storytelling perspective and the world generation perspective of One Piece, I think it's absolutely phenomenal. So One Piece is up there for me. The final slot in my top 5. I'm trying to think, what animes have I rewatched time and time again? I didn't think about this. This is a good question. I've got 4. Fifth. I would probably say, and this is maybe a bit of a long shot, but it's a question that was actually asked on radio recently about what was the anime that changed my life as such. And the one that fits that slot for me is Anohana. I've watched it 3 or 4 times. It's got an incredibly soft place in my heart for the sake of one, the story, and secondly, the time of which I watched it for the first time. So the first time I watched the anime was literally on the flight back from Japan from the first time, and I bawled my eyes out. And I was on the plane, and I did not care what people thought of me. I was absolutely like people watching me like watching a cartoon, and people going, "Why the hell is this grown man bawling his eyes out?" And I'm like, "You don't understand." So yeah, I think Anohana takes that final slot for me. But a couple of again, in my opinion, I'd say some honorable mentions. The Al Buta series, or Bunny Girl, or Rascal Does Not Dream Bunny Girl Senpai series. I did not want to get hit, so I maxed up my defense. Bofuri is another close contender for me. I'd also say another fantastic one is Bocchi Zarok. And also I'd say Quintessential Quintuplets is up there for me as well. So
these are some solid picks, I will say that. And I do agree with the One Piece recommended to newbies. Even to veterans who deem it kind of a big, how would I say it? A big watch. That'd probably be the easiest way. One of my moderators, he's been watching anime for years, has one of the biggest anime collections, physical, I've ever seen. He didn't pick up One Piece until recently. And he started with the manga, which he's owned it, but he never opened it. And it took, I think it was a conversation between me and a couple other people talking about, even though it's long, even if you were to watch I think what it was, 8 to 10 episodes a day, you could catch up in the 8-month span, the 6 to 8 month span that they're taking a break right now. And we talked about how good it was, how it's impacted us and how we have our standards for anime. And he ended up reading it, and he's been plowing through it because he really likes the manga. And my only recommendation, if you had to choose between the manga and the anime, I personally would probably tell you to pick up the manga. I started the anime before the manga, so that's why I'm sticking with it. But the manga's ahead. There are stuff that you don't get in the anime because there's the beginning chapter pictures also are basically a second story for a lot of characters that disappeared and you don't hear anything of. But there's a lot of people who thought characters died. They're still alive. They show pictures of them being fruitful, doing other things. It's just, I recommend the manga in that sense. Yes.
No, yeah. I use a manga reader on my phone, and I'd love to have the physical copies, but I have not got the space for more books. But I'm reading the manga alongside the anime as well, and I'm up to date on the manga because what I love doing is seeing, I've read the manga. How do they interpret that in anime adaptation? And 9 times out of 10, they've got it pretty damn spot on. There's a couple of bits, again, like I said, there's a couple of bits that are missing. a couple of like Easter egg bits, like I said, in the covers and things like that, which you don't get in the anime, but you do in the manga. But the anime is a very close representation of the manga, which, you know, you see a lot of anime which don't do that. One hot mention for that is The Promised Neverland. What were they doing? Let's not talk about that anymore, shall we?
Oh boy!
I love the manga, like the Promised Land, the Promised Neverland manga, amazing, really good. What were they doing with the anime? And I don't know if you heard about the story as to why they decided to do that. Because they were like, oh, we want people to watch the anime and still be surprised and have it as a unique product. I'm like, but that's not what anime adaptations are. They're meant to be true as much as you can.
You're meant to stick to source material. Unless it's like an anime original, then it's like, do what you want, fam. Then
yeah, like the likes of Ruby. It's an original. Makes sense. Do what you want to do. I think, was it Vinland Saga as well was an original, if I remember rightly. Could be wrong.
I think the manga came first.
Okay, to be fair, I'm one of those people that there's a lot of like top anime that people recommend. I probably watched about 20% of them. I have not watched Bleach. I have not watched Black Clover. I have not watched like the latest stuff of Dragon Ball Z. I've not watched Blue Exorcist. Like there's a lot of peak anime that people say, oh, I've not watched Naruto. It's another big one. And people go, oh, you should watch these. I'm like, no, I haven't, because I prefer the smaller animes. There's only like, the only one big anime that I really like is One Piece, and you don't get much bigger than that.
I get that. So I watched Naruto growing up, and I went back and rewatched Naruto and Shippuden. I put Shippuden over regular Naruto, but I rank it maybe at a 7. It's really good. There were emotional scenes. It's the filler that kills me.
Yeah, and that's a big problem with One Piece as well. There's a lot of filler in One Piece.
Well, comparatively, not that much. Like, and even then, the filler's still good and makes sense. Unlike Naruto, where there's literally a part where they're just animals randomly. Like, I don't get it. It's just really weird. Then with Bleach, I binge watched all of Bleach. The filler is very good. Some of the filler makes sense and explains stuff later on, which is odd, but it just works that way. And 1,000 Year Blood War, I will say Bleach has always had me hype, and it is, if you were to take on one, I do recommend Bleach. Very good action scenes, very good story plot, very good world building. Genuinely enjoy it.
Okay.
But what goes hand in hand with anime? Video games. They usually go hand in hand. You are a streamer that streams on Twitch under the same name, Weiss and Chill. So, what got you into video games? Was it something your parents were like, hey, let's try this? Was it friends or like come over when you were younger and you like went over to their house and started playing?
Yeah.
What kind of kicked it off?
So, actually, unironically, my parents hated me playing video games. They thought it was brain rot. They thought it was not productive to me in the slightest. They'd rather me go out and play sports with friends. So when I was young, I played a lot of sports. But I also enjoyed my video games. Like I played FIFA as one of my childhood games, I guess. But the very first game that ever got me into playing games was the original Sonic the Hedgehog. My dad had a Sega Genesis. And he was like, yeah, I got this because on a whim, because my dad was like that. I've got some games. Here you go, play. And I'm like, okay, cool. So we had the Sega Genesis and we had the PS1, the original PlayStation. So the likes of Crash Bandicoot, the original Burnout games, Destruction Derby. I loved Destruction Derby as a kid. Just thinking Spyro. On the Sega, again, you're looking Mega Man, you're looking Sonic, F-Zero. I played a lot of those from like the age of 5 to 10. And then I was like, not a closet gamer, but it was a gamer with my dad at my home. So my mum and dad split when I was very young. And I was like 2 years old. At my main house of residence, I avoided games a lot because my parents didn't really like me playing them too much. I got overexcited a lot. I was very loud. Cue the whole thing of I'm definitely got some form of autism or ADHD. So they were like, "Oh, why are you being so loud? You're just playing a game." I'm like, "Why don't you just sit down and watch telly?" I'm like, "At least I'm doing something whilst playing a game, rather than just sitting there and not doing anything." Which has always been my argument for video games, and I think video games are great because not just from a mental stimulation point, as long as you're playing the right sort of game, but also, especially nowadays, the social interaction part of games, the actual like problem solving behind games, especially behind games like Breath of the Wild or like Skyrim, Fallout, like the problem solving aspects to those games. I absolutely loved it. Again, when I was younger, I played a lot of things like Age of Empires or Age of Mythology, like those RTS style games. And yeah, like I started as a gamer very young, and then I've always played games throughout, even though my parents didn't like it too much. And now, once I became an adult, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to accept the fact I'm a gamer. And I'm not a serious gamer. I am totally a casual gamer. I would class myself as a good casual gamer. Like, I don't just do things and go, oh, like Mario Kart and be bad. Like, I'll play Mario Kart and play it super seriously because I'm a tryhard. When it comes to certain things, I am so competitive, it's ridiculous. And it was fun. Like, it was actually that sort of like playing those video games that made me realize that I had the energy to do things like radio, to be a DJ, because I was a DJ for 7 years. I DJed rock music in Leicester. I also, again, doing streaming. Like, it was that sort of things when I started playing games about 18, 19, I was like, actually, I could do this in front of a camera, put it on the screen, and have people laugh at me. You know what I mean? And like, I feel that I had that energy, and I was like, you know what, let's progress that on to what I love most, which then became, talking about card games. And I played card games for a very long time. I think the first card game I played was Pokemon, and I played it. I didn't just collect it as a kid going, "Oh, look, Pokemon." I actually played the game when it back when Jungle first came out, like Base Set and Jungle, when they had the very basic rules. I played the game. I remember one of my very first games I had on the Game Boy was the Pokemon trading card game for Game Boy, and I loved that game to absolute bits. I played that too much, and I like, even recently I found, because there's a second version of the game, like a part 2 to the game, that was only ever released in Japan, and I've started playing that about a year ago, and like for like 6 months solid. And those sort of games, again, like then I got a Game Boy Advance, and then went into the world of playing Yu-Gi-Oh, and all the Yu-Gi-Oh games on Game Boy and on PS as well, on PS Portable, PSP, PS Vita. Playing the games on the PS2, such as Jewelers of the Roses, the original Yu-Gi-Oh game on PlayStation, what's it called, Forbidden Duelist, I think it's called.
Yep.
Like, I've played all of those, and ironically, that was my again, I've had the Pokemon cards, and then I started playing the Yu-Gi-Oh video games. I went, this is a card game, let's check it out. Then I got into the Yu-Gi-Oh card game, and that then escalated into what I do now.
So, when it comes to video games, we're talking about mental stimulation and stuff. What genre do you tend to stick to? I know you just mentioned going through the Yu-Gi-Oh games, going through playing the Pokemon TCG and stuff like that. But nowadays, what game would you just find yourself, if you're just home, you just pull it out and just relax? What kind of game do you do? Are you a shooter? Are you a driver? Are you like Minecraft, where you build and simulate stuff? What do you tend to stick with?
Mostly RPGs. So JRPGs, Breath of the Wild, I guess, is a pseudo JRPG. I've started myself recently starting to look and trying to play the Final Fantasy games, which I never did as a young kid. Dragon Quest, Skyrim, the Fallout series, those sort of open world RPGs are games that I just lose myself in. And I love them so much. I want to get into some more, and there's some recent again looking at the likes of Persona. I've with Persona 3 Reload hitting Game Pass, I've been playing Persona 3 Reload. When it was on there, I played Persona 5 Tactica, P4 Gold when that was on Game Pass. I love the Persona series. It's amazing. Although hot take, P4 is not as good as P3. People love P4, but P3 is phenomenal. Like I love P3. It's so good.
So in my regards, I think it, depending on which one you feel is better, depends on which one speaks to you the most, because
Agreed.
each one has a different message. For me, P4 and P4 Golden came at a time where I kind of didn't know what I lost my self-identity. P4 helped bring it back. P3 deals with death and everything that revolves around death and how to deal with it. So usually people who really like P3, the message sticks with them, and that's what sticks with them. P5, corrupt government, corrupt society, dealing with corrupt people around you, mean adults that are corrupt and put, people have gone through that and dealt with that. So people who tend to like P5 out of all of them deal with that. Now, P1 and P2, there's a message about defending the world from Hitler and like some other stuff.
Yeah.
The message really don't apply now, but
they're not as relatable.
yeah, but the messages are still there, which there are a lot of P1 and P2 fans. But no, I totally get where you can feel like, P3 is better, especially since Reloaded came out and it's got the major glow up added on content and stuff like that. So like I totally get having that and feeling like it's better. Like I totally get that. One of the things I do want to ask, because you also did bring up, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon. How did you find Weiss? So like I know it's a natural progression of I like anime and I'm watching stuff. Did you actually come across like a Bushiroad ad? Because that's what happened to me.
So no, my introduction to Weiss was literally one of my good friends not from university. It was a friend that I made whilst I was at university, but he was just in the area. And it was through Yu-Gi-Oh, funnily enough. So I played Yu-Gi-Oh a fair bit, and I went to a store in Leicestershire called Golden Sun, which is now closed down, sadly. But I played Yu-Gi-Oh a lot there, and then I think the very first thing I saw on their shelf. Oh no, it was Golden Sun. And then it was also a place in Loughborough called Weekend Warlords, and I saw that they had it was the Monogatari trial decks in English, and the Sword Art Online ones, and the Attack on Titan ones. And I was like, oh, I've just watched Attack on Titan, and it's in a card game. That's kind of cool. And then my friend overheard me and went, oh yeah, this is Weiss Schwartz. I've been playing for, I think he'd been playing for at least 5 years at the time. Like he'd been playing like before English even came out. And he was like, yeah, like you check it out. I'll teach you. I was like, yeah, sure, go for it. And I got hooked. I got absolutely hooked. And that was back in it was late 2015. Is when I started playing.
I think that's when I got it around to it. So for me, what happened, last year high school, found this anime called Card Fight Vanguard. Forget what randomly happened, but I think I saw an ad on YouTube for it, and I was like, oh, this looks interesting. Then I started watching because they had all the English dub episodes for free on YouTube, so went down a rabbit hole. And then one of my good friends, Timmy, who's a OG Base Damage member, I saw him like change his profile picture to the main character, and I'm like, oh yeah, so you watch it too? And then we started talking, and he was like, yeah, I'm gonna go down to the local card shop and play the game. It's a real game. And then kind of just went from there. And then eventually they all started playing Weiss Schwartz, and then I got into it too, and kind of just went from there.
No, mine was literally I was a Yu-Gi-Oh player, and just happened to go into a store which happened to have some Weiss Schwartz stock randomly. And then my friend overheard and said, oh yeah, this is Weiss Schwartz. I've known the game. I've played for a while. Do you want to play? I'm like, yeah, sure. Teach me. And it just developed from there. I was like, yeah, sure. Let me buy a trial deck. I think the first trial deck I bought was it was Sword Art Online season 2. The one with the Kirito with the lightsaber deck.
Oh yeah.
That was the first. That was the very first trial deck I ever bought. Then I bought Attack on Titan because my wife enjoyed Attack on Titan. So me and my wife then started playing a little bit as well. She doesn't play much anymore. Because at one point I built her a Sasha waifu deck from Attack on Titan, and she loved it. But yeah, no, it's wild how it's that little thing of just spotting it on the shelf and going, oh, that looks cool. It's an anime that I know, and it's in a card game. I should check this out. And ironically, I didn't hear about Card Fight Vanguard until my first BCS. I got to BCS. I was like, oh wait, there's another card game. What's this? Oh, Vanguard. Cool. I never really picked it up. I've dabbled in it a little bit just so I know what's going on. But yeah, the only Bushiroad game that I've really probably dedicated time to is Weisschwarz. I didn't even try with Dragonborn. I dabbled a little bit in Buddy Fight. I've dabbled a little bit in Shadowverse, dabbled a little bit in Vanguard. But obviously Weiss is what I'm known for, and I've been playing that game for nearly 10 years now, which is wild to think.
Yeah, I started thinking about that the other day too. I'm like, this year makes 10 years, and I'm like, I've been around too long, you know. I've been around the block a little too long, if you ask me. But that's fine. But the other thing that I want to ask is because at one point you're just like, well, I can put myself behind a camera and make the videos and stuff. What was the actual push? Because for me, I know there was a lot of stuff going on. We went through some stuff with losing a house, because I know in 2008 it was a little rough in the housing market and the economy in the U.S. My parents had to take a loan out. It's a bunch of stuff, but we ended up losing a house and having to move. And around that time, I was trying to find myself. This is where I really got into P4. But I was trying to find myself, trying to figure out something to do with my time, because I had a lot of free time. I was taking a break before I went to college, so I had just a lot of stuff. And then I'm like, I saw some people doing some anime reviews and stuff like that, and I'm like, well, I like anime. I can do that. I can get behind a camera. And it kind of just developed that for me. What was your push? What was you going,
Sure,
I can actually do this?
Yeah, so again, like knowing that it was a thing, obviously I saw a lot of YouTube channels doing Weisschwarz, obviously a lot of them being America based, the likes of Casually Weisschwarz, the likes of, at the time, 36 Cancel, and like those were the two big channels that made me go, that I followed on the Weisschwarz scene. And I was I got to, I think it was after the first year of COVID. And so it hit like mid 2020, early to mid 2021. And I was sort of sitting there going, oh, out of curiosity, is there anyone in Europe that does this? And I was looking around for days and days and days. I'm like, I can't find a single European dedicated content creator for Weisschwarz. The closest we had was ENTCG. And then there was also a guy that started doing the collecting side, a guy called Pokemike, who he did Pokemon a lot and then got into the world of Weisschwarz, and now he does other stuff like Union Arena and stuff. But at the time, there was not really anyone in Europe that made dedicated content. And at that point, I was sort of like, well, I've got a bit of free time. So that was first thing. Was noticing that there was a gap in Europe for content made for Weisschwarz. The second thing as well, at the time, I was in a job that it didn't let me have any form of creative outlet really. And I missed doing, obviously, when I was DJing before COVID, that was a fantastic creative outlet for me. Then COVID happened, which meant that, no parties for the best part of 18 months.
Yeah.
Meant that I basically just quit DJing there and then. Sold all my gear and went, you know what, that part of me is done. I'm done with doing 2-3 a.m. late nights, although I still do them on stream now. Oops. It's fine, you win some, you lose some. And and I was sort of sitting there like, look, ironically, my work laptop, so it's really dumb actually, and should I admit this? No, but it's fine, we're doing it anyway. So my work laptop at the time, there was something that was, I was doing some special work for it, for work, and I needed a special piece of program, and they were like, oh yeah, we'll give you admin rights so that you can do the stuff. Cool. And then they never took those admin rights away. So, and my laptop, for work laptop, was a good laptop. And I was like, okay, maybe I could start streaming on this. Or maybe I could start recording videos and editing videos on this. So I downloaded OBS. It worked fine. I was able just to not be on the VPN and just use it as my own personal laptop to a degree. Yeah. And I did that. So my very first streaming setup was my work laptop. So for the first year of me doing streaming, and this was way before I even took the Weiss and Chill name. So before, I went under the alias of DJ Darkrai, which was my DJ name. And I was like, you know what? let's go with this. And like, so I think about 6 months I did as DJ Darkrai. And then I was like, well, because I sort of wanted to keep myself open, and I was like, well, actually, with DJ Darkrai, that's a Pokemon. Or Darkrai is a Pokemon. And I'm not doing Pokemon content. It makes no sense to keep that name. So I had a little play around. I went, Weiss, you know, I wanted to do like a play on Two Soul, like Two Soul Go Brr as like a channel name. I was like, it's a bit too niche. I'm not sure if that's gonna work. And then I was just playing around with names. Weiss, what? And then one of my friends said to me, okay, if you're doing this, in fact, it's my moderator, Dario, and he was like, okay, if you're gonna do this and you're doing this way, what is your intention? What is it you want to do? And I literally said, I just want to play Weiss Schwartz and chill with friends. And it was like, okay, Weiss Schwartz and chilling, Weiss and chill. Boom. And I was like, oh shit, it works. And I was like, and then that was the birth of the slogan. That was the birth of the channel name. And then I had a friend of mine help me with some branding stuff. And then I did the branding stuff apart from that on my own. And that was kind of like, and shout out to Steve. You know Steve from Gotham Mum and Stim. Steve, he made my logo at the very beginning, and I still use it to this day. And then it sort of went from there, and I was like, you know what, this is what I want to do. Even if I do it where I don't upload something very frequently, I want to do this as a hobby project. And if it picks up, it picks up. Cool. I'd never expect it to, but if it does, amazing. So I was uploading videos once every 2 or 3 weeks. Like, it was very, very, and it was never the same time. It was always different. It was just whenever I had the chance to do it. Yeah. And it still is that way to a degree. It's a bit more frequent now. But like, I've not uploaded a video for about 10 days now, and I need to, I'm actually, after this interview, I'm going to be recording another video, and trying to get into that sort of thing again. But obviously with my mental health and things like that, like being consistent with a schedule for something that I'm not seeing, not seeing a reason for doing it, but not seeing, like, at the end of the day, not seeing money for doing it. Yeah. Is what it boils down to. You know, I can't commit too much time to this because at the end of the day, I'm an adult. I have to earn money. And I still do it just, again, because I love doing what I do. And it is a pure hobby project for me. And so, yeah, that's basically what it boils down to. Like, one, there was the gap in Europe. 2, I didn't have a creative outlet in my workplace anymore. And thirdly, I wanted something to do to keep me from not being stuck in my dark thoughts. Because the only way that I stop myself becoming super depressed is by keeping myself busy. And this is one way that I can do that. So yeah, I guess that kind of answered the question in a very long-winded way.
No, it's fine. I mean, it gives you, and there's a lot of people out there that do stuff like this, or stream, or, you know, play games and stuff just to get out of their own head, kind of. And I totally get that. And I used to be like that for a while too. It was my escapism, but it was also showing a decline in my content quality too for a while, because at some point I was like, yep, I'm gonna put a video every 3 days. So like, I was forcing myself to do content, edit it, and get it out, to which, you know, was batch recording and it wasn't the best quality. Like, you could see the decline. So yeah. I totally get trying to get out of your head. So with that, you make the content, you make Weiss Schwartz videos. Then all of a sudden, you started doing HoloLive TCG when they announced it and came out with it.
Yes.
But before you get there, how did you find HoloLive and VTubers? Because it's kind of one of those things that usually when people discover them and start watching it, just down into a little hole. So,
and that's exactly it. That's exactly it. So my very first exposure to HoloLive was through my friend Dario. Again, there's a lot to him. Whether it's to blame him for or to thank him for, I'm not quite sure.
We'll find out in a little while.
But yeah, obviously he's been into VTubers and HoloLive for quite a while, and he was like, he was always sharing random clips of like of streams and things like that. And I was like, oh, these are actually quite cute, quite funny. I actually quite enjoy this. And then HoloLive came to Weiss Schwartz, and then I was like, okay, let's look at the set. The set looks really good. Cool. Okay. Guess I'm going to commit to this because, one, VTubers are kind of cool and I want to get into it more. Secondly, the set was rather good. And Thirdly, who doesn't like big titty anime girls?
Yeah, you're not wrong.
But yeah, that was sort of like where once I got Hololive in Weisschwarz, that was when I really went, oh, there's more to this. There's a lot more girls in this. Like, it's a whole franchise. I'm going to get into this more. And I started watching the likes. So my favorite are Nekomata Okayu and Inagami Korone. And they're my favorite two from the gamers generation. And I watched their stuff all the time and like started watching mainly their clips. It's very rare I tend to watch a full stream. And then again, a lot of clips I saw from the likes of Miko, clips from Aqua and her streams. Fubuki was another big one for me. And then obviously realized that obviously there was the Myth people, and then obviously started watching a bit of Gura, started watching Iris, who was quite funny on stream. And then obviously that whole English side has developed. So now you've got I can't remember, is it Justice is the latest one?
I think so.
Where you've got GG and ERB and all that stuff. Obviously the one before that, Advent. I love Advent as a group. Like, Bijou is so funny. Puamoko is so funny. Freaking oh god, I've forgotten the rest of them. Nerissa is really cool. Like, her karaoke streams are really cool. Nerissa is very talented. I've forgotten the rest of them now. Mine's gone blank. Either way, like so nowadays, like it's the first time I've actually seen myself sit down and watch an actual stream live, and that is with Fuamoko and with Bijou. I just think they're absolutely hilarious. And then from there, again, I watch other things, clips as well, like clips from Crony, from trying to think. So Polka streams are really funny, and her clips are hilarious. Watame and Toa are hilarious. Marine and Pekora. Oh, Marine and Pekora, they are war crimes incarnate. It's one of those things where I'm more of a clip watcher with Hololive rather than a stream watcher. But there are a few streams that I do watch, and obviously from there, when I found out that obviously the Hololive card game was becoming a thing, I was like, oh no, my wallet. What am I going to do? Especially when they first announced it, and it was like, oh, here's a Japanese page, but here's an English page as well. I'm like, there's already an English page? Oh no.
They know their audience. They know what was going to happen.
So yeah, that was and then it's sort of like, I was like, oh, I'm doing this Weisschwarz. People like anime. People in Weisschwarz know of Hololive. Let's start talking about it. And that's where the blow up happened. Where, from 600 subscribers to now hitting 1,500 in the space of 5 months.
Yep.
It was beyond my wildest imagination. And I'm fortunate enough where, it's not, of course, when you do content and you get content that are getting good views, you're going to want to keep doing that content. Of course you will. It's that self-validation, the satisfaction, I guess. I genuinely love the card game. Like, it's so fun, but it's not overly complex.
Yeah.
And the community is amazing. And that's the biggest thing for me as well. Like, the reason why I never started doing Yu-Gi-Oh content, the reason why I never started doing Pokemon TCG content, is that the community is rough at best. Let's be honest. Whereas Weisschwarz, the community is small, but it's amazing. There are very, very, very few bad eggs when it comes to Weisschwarz. And Hololive is the same. So being able to facilitate and provide entertainment and content for those communities in itself is very appealing, and that gives me a lot of gratification. I am one of those people that I will always not think of myself and think of other people, and what I can do for the community and what I can do for people around me. I am very much a people pleaser. but I would say that the way that I seem to be doing the best at pleasing people is via my content. And at the moment, Hololive seems to be doing that the most, because again, at the moment, I think there are maybe 2 or 3 content creators that do Hololive TCG stuff on a regular basis. Everyone else is Japanese, and even then in Japan there's only maybe 4 or 5 channels that do it like consistently, which surprised me. I thought there'd be way more in Japan. But in the West, like there's me, there's Miss Playmakers, and we're like the only 2 that do like regular content. There are people that open boxes, of course.
Yeah.
You know, that's always going to be a thing. But in terms of actually talking about the game and showing gameplay and things like that, obviously Puffin started doing stuff as well, which is great. You know, J3 Puffin, and you know, like, and so he'd be like the 3rd content creator for Hololive. I think he's done 2 videos now on gameplay. And there's not many content creators out there to facilitate for the community. So
yeah.
And for the English side, at least, for English speaking content creators, I don't think I'm wrong in saying that I was the first.
No, I really think you were the first.
So obviously a lot of people come to me. That's how the channel's blown up, and I want to facilitate for them. I still want to do Vice Works content. I tend to do more of my Vice Works content on my streaming now. But I've got a couple of deck profiles I still want to put out for Vice Works. I've got a couple of box openings still to put out. I've still got Vice Works content. I've got half of it recorded. I've just got to find. It's finding the time to edit. Which as a content creator, as you know, editing content is the most time-consuming thing.
Yep. And
when you can't afford to pay an editor, it makes it even harder. So yeah, I would love to have content out every 2 or 3 days. I would absolutely. And there was a period when obviously when I was on that riding the wave of the Hololive hype, I was getting videos out 2-3 times a week. And I was like, I am doing this. This is really good. And then I had a bit of a mental health slip, and I was like, okay, I need to look after myself a little bit. And I've slowed back down to my normal schedule as such, where I'm doing a video every 2 weeks. And I'm like, I do want to do this more, but then I'm now doing my own business now, where I'm doing content creation for like card shows, like collector's card shows. And obviously that's taking up time where I've got to do, I've got to edit shorts and Instagram reels and stuff for them. And don't get me wrong, I love it, and it pays quite nicely. But it's taking away from what I can do for my own channel. Yeah. Which is why ideally I would love an editor just to help keep me to task, and to ensure that content's out more frequently for the community. Because I think that's the only thing stopping my growth right now is my lack of consistency in releasing content. If I was to get a video out once a week or twice a week, I think the community would grow more, and the people that are receiving the content would see it more frequently because it would help the algorithm. We all love the algorithm, and that's the toughest thing, right? Like, you see these people that pump out content like nothing, but it's low quality content, and they do extremely well. Which, fair enough, if that's their business model or their content creation model, and it works for them, fair play. But I'm quite big on really wanting to make sure the production quality is good. Like, again, making sure I've got all the lighting, make sure I've got the backlight. I'm quite big on making sure that my production quality is really good. And if that means it takes me 2 to 3 weeks to get a video out, it takes me 2 to 3 weeks to get a video out. That's how I do it. I've digressed massively here. I'm very good at this. This is why I do radio. I can talk for everything.
Well, it's fine. It's still on the YouTube content side, and like you said, editing is the biggest thing. And like before we even recorded, we were talking, and what was I doing? Editing a video. I'm editing an anime overview, and I sit there. I gotta cut up footage. I gotta see what I want to do. I gotta make sure it's within certain seconds so I don't get flagged for copyright or flagged for using in other people's videos, stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff to it, and I got lucky that PD, one of my friends, was a freelance editor, and we worked out a deal, and that way I can at least get stream highlights out. So I guaranteed at least 1 video a week. And bigger projects like Kingdom Hearts or walking around anime conventions. Like, I got really lucky. And I will always say that I got lucky with that because it helps a lot in that regard. So I totally get, you know, putting up higher quality stuff. And as the years gone on, my editing has improved. I'm not the best editor. I'm not sitting here saying I'm the best thing out there. If anything, I think my editing's lacking a lot, but people still come and show up. So like,
that's it. In that you're providing for your community, and if your community are happy with what you're providing, they'll stay and they'll watch your videos. And you know, at the end of the day, our job as a content creator is to provide entertainment to people that want to watch it, and to hopefully increase the number of people that want to watch what we do.
Yep.
But there's no point in doing stuff that you don't want to do, because if you're not having fun, your audience isn't going to have fun.
Bingo.
Like, the biggest thing is, as long as if you're having a good time, that energy comes across the camera, in the microphone, in your, you know, how you're speaking. That excitement, that energy comes through. And in my opinion, like, doing streaming and things like that, it's just another form of being an actor, because you've got to flick that switch of, okay, I'm now in performance mode. I am in front of a camera. I am, so if I'm having a bad day, but I decide to go in front of that camera, I need to turn around and go, hi everyone, hi. You know, you have to. It's very, very draining. And some people, like, there are people out there that think that doing content is really, really simple. It isn't. It really isn't. You know, especially when you're putting your face out there. Because it's funny, it was one of your streams recently, actually, where it was talking about, oh, we got a first hate comment. And I was like, oh, God, I remember my first hate comment was literally like oh, God, you should really learn how to, you know, trim your beard, and have you heard of personal hygiene? I'm like, bruh, what? Why? What are you getting out of this? What is the point? Like,
so like,
I know I'm not the best shaven. I don't care. This is me.
So with that, speaking of, in that video I was editing, I made a whole skit for it. I gotta send it to you. But the very first actual hate comment, I have it as my background on my
yes,
yeah, that, and I ended up making a playmat out of it because like,
did you actually?
yeah, I'll have to send you the link, but I ended up making a playmat out of it because I find it hilarious. You know,
that's so...
yeah, I'll send it later, and then, you know,
yeah.
But yeah, no, hate comments are like, it's so weird because people, especially if you do shorts, which is where the very first one ever came from, it access and goes to a whole thing. That's when you know you hit the algorithm, when you get a bunch of random people that you know it's not focused to, but they have to put their opinion out there, then never respond when you call them out on it, which is the greatest thing ever. They think they won, and they run away and never come back. But I digress.
People are people.
Yes, exactly. So, one of the big things I want to, like, finish up talking about, one of your newest communities that you've developed in recent months, Coville Public Radio. So, how did you find out Coville was making a radio station? How did you pitch to be like, yeah, let's put some anime music on and some J-rock, J-pop. People are going to love it. And then tell them the story of how you went from supposed to do 1 hour to 2 hour, which kind of messed up everything when it comes to marketing.
Yeah, so in Colville, where I live, it's a small town in Leicestershire, there was a radio station called Hermitage FM. And it was a community radio station where, you know, totally volunteer, go and do it. And it broadcast out onto FM waves only. It didn't do online, as far as I'm aware anyway. And I looked at, again, I did radio before. So I actually did radio whilst I was at university. So I used to do a rock show at my Loughborough University called the LCR Rock Show, which is the Loughborough Campus Radio Rock Show. And I did that for a year and a half, 2 years. And then I moved from Loughborough to Leicester, where my wife went to university at De Montfort University. And they had a radio station called Demon FM. And I was like, oh, okay, I've done radio before. I'd like to do it again. Let's jump into it. and I became a producer and presenter on a show called Catalyst. In fact, I was lead producer and a presenter for Catalyst, which was all about introducing new music from the local area and getting it out on the radio.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved doing that. It was absolutely amazing. And then I sort of stopped, moved to Colville, and sort of, didn't really get into it much more. Then I sort of get involved a little bit with the local community centre, just doing bits and bobs. And then they sort of said, "Oh, we're going to start doing a radio show. We're bringing back what was Hermitage FM." So one of the main guys who did stuff on Hermitage FM is the station manager of Colville Public Radio. And I sort of I saw like a little post just come out on Facebook. Oh, we're restarting a radio show. We're going to start doing this. If you're interested, let us know. And I was like, you know what? Why not? Because I miss doing radio. I absolutely loved it. I've always been told I've got a voice for radio, and I was like, you know what? What can I do that's different? And I was like, well, obviously I'm a weeb. I'm a Japanophile, and I'm like, well, why not just do a Japan show? And I was trying to think of a name, and it's like, well, Japan is Nippon or Nihon or Nippon in Japanese. And I was like, okay, I could do like a Japan time, like a Japan hour. I was like, oh, Japan hour. How does that translate? Obviously, when you're saying like, I don't know, 5 o'clock in Japanese, you'd say goji. So the G at the end, the JI. I was like, oh, Japan hour, Japan o'clock, Japan, like Nippon G. Fantastic. There's my channel name. There's the name. Cool. And I reached out and said, oh yeah, I'll do an hour show for you, because I don't think you'd want more than an hour. It's a very niche show. So I was like, normally niche shows tend to be an hour long. So I went along this whole Japan hour, Nipponji, blah, blah. And then literally 2 days before I went live for my first show, they were like, oh, here's your schedule. And I see it and it's like, oh, it's 9 to 11. It's 9 to 11. Why is it 2 hours? What the frick? Why is it 2 hours? And it's like, and as I reached out, I was like, well, we've got the space, so we thought to ourselves, yeah, why not give you 2 hours? I'm like, right.
Like, I'm not complaining, but I already did all the marketing and all the the graphic design.
It was so funny. And I was just sitting there going, we'll just change it to like Japan time, or Japan hour can still be 2 hours. It's Japan hour somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
I just sort of play along that line a bit. And yeah, that's sort of what happened. The way I sort of sold it to him was like, at the end of the day, one, I'm a content creator. I've got quite a big community behind me anyway. And all of those people love their anime, love things about Japan, love Japanese music, like listen to exclusively Japanese music. And I was like, well, there's not many radio shows around the world that does Japanese music. In fact, I don't think there's one that does like an actual dedicated radio show every week in the UK at all. So it makes me laugh every time it says like, oh, it's the #1 Japan radio DJ or Japan radio host in the UK. I'm like, yes, because I'm the only one.
Look, it's called details. You build it up. You don't have to worry about that. You're #1 for a reason. Whether it be because literally you're the only one, you are still #1, and that's what matters.
But yeah, so I sort of sold them to like, end of the day, I've got all these people that would listen. I think it's something different. You're all about the community and like celebrating all different things about the community. Why don't we give it a go? And they were like, okay, let's have a quick chat with you. Let's see if you're, see if you've got the voice for radio, see if you understand what radio is all about and understand the mechanics of radio. And I said to him, also, I've been on radio twice before. I used to be a producer and a presenter. I do my live streaming stuff, so speaking in front of a camera into a microphone, I'm very used to it, blah, blah, blah. And it was like, yeah, we can tell you got a voice for it. And I'm like, thank you.
Well, see, I've been told I got a face for it, so like you're doing better than me right now. So just throwing that out there.
No, hey, no. A lot of radios nowadays tend to do recordings as well. Having a face for radio is actually kind of important now. But yeah, no, it sort of just started like that, and obviously did my first show, and I spoke to the radio, the station manager recently, and he was like, yeah, your show's doing really well. You're getting anywhere between 20 and 40 listeners every week. And that's just like individual logins. That's not thinking, oh, if that person's logged in, there could be 2 or 3 people listening into the same device. There's like, so realistically, you're probably getting 50 to 75 listeners every week, which for a 9 to 11 p.m. show is really good. And the fact that you're one of the very few people that actually gets people listening from outside of the UK is amazing. Let's keep doing this. And yeah, the rest of it's from there basically. And I absolutely love it. It's really fun. If you want to check it out, ColvillePublicRadio.com, Thursdays, 9 to 11 p.m. UK time. And tune in and we have a laugh. You know, I do every show live. I never pre-record my shows. Like some radio people do some pre-recordings and some live, things like that. But I do my shows 100% live every single time because I love interacting with people and being able to ask questions, like I mentioned earlier, about, you know, what was the radio that changed you? Asking questions like, what was the first anime that you got into? What is your favorite non-anime Japanese artist? There's loads of questions. Like I ask them all the time, and I always get the interaction. And you know, I love making that part of the show because at the end of the day, it's a community radio, and I want the community to be involved in the show in one way or another. And the way I do that is by making my shows live, even though it's really late for me. Trying to convince them to bring it forward a couple of hours and give me the 7 to 9 slot. We'll see how that goes. But no, it's one of those things where it's nice to be back on the waves again. We are soon hopefully going to be going to FM as well as online, which would be really cool. But even if not, you know, I genuinely love what I do with it. It's another fantastic creative outlet for me. I get to share my love of Japanese music. You know, again, I'm one of those people that basically exclusively listens to Japanese music, whether it be from anime, whether it be from just J-rock bands like 1OK Rock, Novel Bright, just to name it, Alexandros, you know. I love my Japanese music, and even like traditional stuff as well I'll listen to. Like if you go old school, like say traditional, like older Japanese stuff, so things like Arc de Sail, thinking like Bradio, thinking Wakaku Band.
You got Nano, you got Uda.
Nano, yeah. And even like things like Honeyworks and all that stuff, you know. And I love Japanese music. I think it's so good. It's better than the crap that we're producing in this country. And yeah, it's just a really nice way for me to be able to link with the community, not just doing what I do for the card game stuff. And if that brings more people in, amazing.
So I'm going to ask one question before we get out of here. We start wrapping up. What are your projects for Coville? What you want to do on your show? What are some of your projects for stream? What are some projects for YouTube? This is your time to chill, get people in there. What are you planning for the year 2025?
Sure. So for the radio, I'm looking to outreach in terms of getting people on the show. I'm going to be doing once a month where we'll be having a guest co-host. Talking of which, Joe is going to be on there in some point this month in January. Then I'm going to have a guest host every single month. I'm also looking at getting interviews with Japanese bands, whether they're based in the UK. So I know one band who I really want to get hold of is a band called Esprit d'Air. The guy that runs it, Kai, I've been speaking with him for years, and I'm hopefully going to get him on the radio to do an interview. So if anyone knows any Japanese style music producers or creators, or even if it's not music, if it's content, if it's VTubers, if it's anything that is Japan culture centric, I want to hear from you. So please feel free to reach out to me on Discord. I'm on Joe's Discord, and you can just send me a DM, please do, or you can email. It's nipponjicpr at Nipponji.
Pause. We're looking it up.
Pause. We're gonna double check the thing. It's nipponji.cpr@gmail.com. Where if you want to email my radio show's email address and you want to talk about something related to Japan, please let me know. I want to get people on. And it's one of those things where I'm in the works to potentially change the 2 hours to 3 hours. So it might even be a 9 till midnight show. 9 till midnight show. So it'll be 3 hours of music rather than just 2. That's the stuff for the radio anyway, at least. For streaming, I've been a bit quiet on streaming recently, but I am looking at getting back into a regular schedule, trying to stream 2 times a week. Trying again get loads of friends on, playing all sorts of games, whether it be doing HoloLive card games using HoloDelta, whether it be playing Vice Shorts using the simulator or via webcam, whether that be just playing other random games like Liar's Bar, Buckshot Roulette, Make Way, Lethal Company, maybe start a Minecraft stream because I miss playing Minecraft. I love Minecraft, especially when it's slightly modded, not over modded, but slightly modded. I'd love to start a Minecraft series once a week. That's going to be happening on Twitch, and I stream on YouTube as well now. So I've got the multicast thing going on because we're allowed to do that at last. In terms of YouTube, obviously still focusing on HoloLive and Vice Shots. HoloLive is also taking a lot of time at the moment, just because it's the thing that's bringing in most views at the minute. But I do want to get back into doing more YouTube content for Vice Shots as well. More educational pieces in terms of both card games. Also doing more event vlogs, so vlogging. So I've recorded everything from when I was at BCS Portugal, and I want to get that vlog out soon. I've also been recording vlogs from when I've been going to card shows, so such as I did Yorkshire Card Show, where I've got a vlog for, which I need to do. I've got Norwich Card Show coming up. I've got Liverpool Card Show. I've got another Worcester Card Show as well. So I'm doing that alongside a lot of stuff as well. Like I said, with my new business, under Weiss and Chill, I'm doing like content creation, video editing, videography, photography, and doing that on the side of things as well. So hopefully you'll see more event style vlogs, and just vlogs in general. I want to do more like check-in videos as well. Just like me talking to the camera and doing more normal content, like again, like anime recommendations, game recommendations, why I enjoy a certain thing, try and do shorts on that, because that's one thing I'm starting to get on with more, and I've not been doing it enough, is YouTube shorts, because they work really well. As much as I hate doing them, they are really good. I'm trying to do more sort of short form content on that side of things for YouTube. And there's a couple of things that at the moment in time I can't discuss, but if they pay off, they will be huge. I'll leave it there.
And with that, where can they find you? And where
Literally
should
find me?
Oh.
Yep, at Weiss and Chill everywhere. You can find me also on Twitch, on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter or X. You can find me on Blue Sky. Oh, Blue Sky? Yeah, Blue Sky.
Yeah, Blue Sky.
You can find me on Instagram, TikTok. I'm everywhere. Just literally at Weiss and Chill, and you'll find me on all my socials.
So with that, sir, thank you for giving me an hour of your time. I appreciate it as always. Make sure you go check him out on everything you can look up, probably even LinkedIn. He might be over there streaming too, because apparently that's a thing. So
that is now a thing.
So thank you all for popping in. Thank you, Weiss. I appreciate you popping in and giving me an hour of your time. Make sure to go follow him everywhere. Check out Coville Public Radio. I will be on there sometime soon. And I will see you all later. Bye-bye.
Bye.